tell you what, being that it's a Parshas HaShavua, maybe everyone gets a chumash. Can I bring a few chumash?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. First, a couple words in Reb Tzadok, just to remind us. Midbar Sinai ba'u miyad lekivrois hatava. Our first stop after Har Sinai, like our first stop after Shavuos, was to Kivrois HaTaiva. It's important to remember the perspective here, clear chronology and history of the event, is that we came to Har Sinai on Rosh Chodesh Sivan Baruch, and we stayed there until when?
Above.
Until Yom Kippur came down from Har Sinai, and then we built the Mishkan. Machras Yom HaKippurim built the Mishkan. So we stayed at Yom Kippur till Nisan. Nisan we did the Hakam Mission. Then you had Shonas Yimei Miluyim. So when did we actually leave? Then we had to stop already. We made a Korban Pesach.
We were in 10 days, wasn't it?
We waited already for the Korban Pesach, and then we were about to go, and the guy said, "Hello, what about us, Lama Nigara? We were Tomei, we were Derek Rechaika. Where were they? We were Derek Rechaika. We also want to bring a Korban, so they waited already until Pesach Sheni. So we're talking about. It ended up being, depending on how you count, well, almost a year, and then until the Anon was Ola. So it was after Pesach Sheni, basically another Shavuos. we got to another Shavuos. So we were there for a long time in Har Sinai. I want to make a point over here. It wasn't a small thing. We were there for Shavuos. We went for Yom Tov to Har Sinai. We went to Har Sinai. We were there. We lived at Har Sinai. That's where we lived. And Har Sinai was a nice place, apparently, miraculously nice. It had a sort of an oasis. First of all, there was a shul. There was all kinds of things in Har Sinai. Grass grew by Har Sinai. That's why we have grass. Some people put greens in the shul on Shavuos. Har Sinai, nice. But after Har Sinai, meaning after a year later, they went out to the Midbar, Hala. Here we're traveling. We have the Mishkan. The Torah reports that the cloud lifted from the Mishkan. They blew the Chatzos, and the Torah tells us in this week's parsha that all the way to Bamidbar to move on, because what's going to happen now happens in Bamidbar. Vayehi b'ntzaya ha'aron vayomer Moshe. Now they carried the Aron, they picked up the Aron, so it means to say that the Kohanim covered up the Aron, and the Bnei Kahas came in and picked up the Aron, and it was an Aron Noisa, and we're on our way, we're moving. As soon as they leave Har Sinai, Chazal report, Ketinoi kabarachas mi beis ha-sefer. As soon as we leave Har Sinai, so Midbar Sinai bo miyad lekivrois hataiva. They came to Kivrois hataiva. Ki achar Yom HaKippurim, which was after Yom HaKippurim, but I'm saying it was much after Yom HaKippurim. Shenishar adayin ezer roishem hainu shirish hatayva the yetzer shebelev min uro shadayin lenispat legamri. This is what we need to explain today. That there was some type of a remnant of yetzer hara which came and reared its ugly head as we left Har Sinai. We were good. Kozman, we were at Har Sinai. In Bayan. So the Rashi says it was the Hafsik ben Koranios. It was the Vayibin Sarah Hara. It's not talking. That's the nuns. Our big Hafsik ben Koranios. The nuns it's a parsha b'fnei atzma. Vayibin Sarah Hara. But the Koranios were directly related to us leaving Har Sinai. This is an important historic point. Everybody with me on that? You see the chiddush of it? What happened at Har Sinai? No, they did tshuva. at Har Sinai. We had a Yom Kippur at Har Sinai. We built a Mishkan on Har Sinai. Yom Kippur, building committee, everything was beautiful. Everything was perfect. Parshas to Truma, Parshas to Tzava, Parshas Vayakel, Parshas Pekudei. Everything happened after the eagle was up. Everything was nice. So just take a look at this week's parsha here. Let's just get the story clear. Go to Parshas Ba'aloischa. Correct. Good Aleph. Right after the upside down nuns of Vayihi bin Tzayah and Vayomer Moshe Kuma Hashem V'Afutzai V'Echa. They left Har Sinai. Vayihi Ha'am Ki Misaynanim. It's kedai for us to learn this with some deep. Vayihi Ha'am Ki Misaynanim Ra B'Oznei Hashem. And now the was Ki Misaynanim. What does the word Misaynanim mean? Does it really? Does it really mean complainers? Mislainanim is complainers. Sounds nice. Sounds good, but it's not the same word.
Made themselves poor.
It's with an aleph. That's why you gotta look inside of it. Perek Yud Aleph Pasuk Aleph. Lashon Aninus. They were mourning. That's what it means. They were mourning. They were Kimis Einanim. It was as if all of a sudden they were in mourning. People are in mourning. Hello. They fall into a depression. Vayiyam Kimis Einanim Ra Ba'oznei Hashem. And this was apparently if something came to the ears of Hashem, so they were misaynanim. So Chazal learned from here that one of the things that an aynain does, like what I lost, right? That was the misaynanim. What did they lose? Batsem? They lost Har Sinai. What did they say they lost? We lost our chicken. But they lost the Har Sinai. Vayishmar Hashem, vayichar apoy, vativar bam eish Hashem v'toichel b'ksei hamachna. So Hashem became angry at their state of mourning and their state of therefore complaining. The complaining was the second. It's not. What's the word we're looking for? Not complaining. It's wailing. What does an onaim do? Moaning. Woe is me. Hashem hears this. Vayichar apoy, vativar bom eish Hashem, vatoichal b'ksei hamachan.
So they're mourning the loss of Ruchnis or Gashmis?
We don't know. They're mourning.
Whining.
So they're mourning on the loss of...
Not whining. Whining is different.
Fetching.
Fetching is different. I don't think that's what's going on over here. I think that, see, if a person puts it, so the Svarim already learned from here, just as a mashal, but the Svarim already learned from here that it's not intelligent practice to be wailing when there's nothing to wail about. It brings down a midas hadin.
If they're wailing about the fact that they're losing the closeness that they had at Sinai,
okay,
then that is something.
Apparently that
then why would Hashem get angry at that? That's something that
because they didn't. Because Vayihi bin Tzayah and Vayomer Moshe, the whole point was they're supposed to go into Eretz Yisrael, and they have the Mishkan, and Moshe's Rabbeinu is going with them. The kedusha is more and more. It's misrabah. So it's not mistafer that if they're whining about that, then they miss the whole thing. If they're whining about Gashmis, but they're feeling a loss, like people move.
What is Rashi?
Fetching, like the fetching is like, I'm in such a bad situation. So the I think Reb Nachman says there's nothing does more damage to the neshama than saying oy vey.
Ultimately, it was the Memorial.
Signing him Rab, wasn't it? Okay. Here we have an earlier case.
What does Rashi mean, Lashon Olila?
Okay. Same thing, no? Ein ha'am. First of all, vayi ha'am, ein ha'am, ela rishayim. When it talks about the am, it talks rishayim. Rashi says, v'cheinu aimer ma'aseh la'am hazeh, ha'am hazeh hara. He doesn't say it out. Why doesn't he say that it was the erev rab, which he's going to say later? Doesn't say that out. The rishayim sheba'am were misaynanim. Ki misaynanim, ein misaynanim ela lashon alila. Alila. Alila is when you're making what's an alila? When you're crying for nothing. Alila stam.
You're looking for a reason to cry, right? You're
Yeah.
looking for an excuse to.
Right. A tragedy waiting to happen. Like alila. Alila means, what's an alila stam? A libel. They were crying about something which was oive. Mevakshim alila heich lifroish me'achrei hamalkin. Rashi gives us a psychological insight over here. They were trying to get away from Hashem. And it was Ra Bozne Hashem Toyana He Ra Bozne Hashem. This type of crying is Ra Bozne Hashem. Oy lanu kamo lobatnu baderech hazeh shloisha yomim. We've already traveled 3 days. They weren't used to travel. 3 days is a long time to travel. We would also be crashing. Traveling 3 days. Shaloi nachnu rather, we haven't been able to rest Meinoi Hatach. And obviously Aaron keeps going and going and going and going. Must be. Let the cloud come down. Okay, let's just go a little bit of Chumash here. So what does Hashem do? Vativar bam eish Hashem vatoichal b'ksei hamachne. A fire comes down from Shamayim and it starts to eat up the machne. V'yitzak, fire broke out. V'yitzak ha'amel Moshe. People ran to Moshe. What's with the fire now? The fire came from the alila. Vayispalo Moshe al Hashem. So Moshe davens to Hashem v'tishka ha'esh. And the fire goes down. Vayikra Shem HaMakim Hahu, that place they called Tavera. Kivar Avam Eish Hashem. From here, it's called Tavera to teach us that when you fetch for nothing, when you put yourself in a Ma'asav Aninos, you're Goyim Tavera. Whatever that means, you're Goyim. Now, another story, which apparently in the same place. Va'asaf Suf Asher Bekirboy, Hisavu Taiva. New story. It might have been a continuation of the story, but it's a new story. The fire went out. Doesn't say anybody did tshuva or anything like that. It just says the fire went out. And now we have the Asaf Suf Asher Bekirboy. Who's the Asaf Suf? Okay. So what does it say? The erev rav. So Rashi says Asaf Suf Elu erev rav. Shenesva aleim etzeisam mitzrayim. The mixed multitudes. Erev rav.
What does that mean? What's the shaysh for that?
Erev means to mix.
I understand that, but what's the shaysh? Why is it called?
Why is it called erev rav? Because they mixed themselves into Klal, so they're goyim. These were goyim that said, we want to be in that number. We want to also go out of Mitzrayim. And Moshe Rabbeinu took heart to their belief. He thought that they were sincere. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this was like a background story in the whole Chumash here, the whole Shvois Vayikra V'Midbar Devarim, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Amcha Asher Atzeisam Eretz Yisrael, your people, not my people. They weren't B'nai Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, so they're not my people. They're your people. You hold to these guys, you take care of them. But why is it, what does the word Asaf Suf mean? It appears here, Asaf Suf. That's just what's the taich. Rashi says Elu Erev Rav. The Ramban argues. It's not a double bar that this was the Erev.
Appendage. They
Prove it.
added
Prove it.
Added on.
What's your what's your bakar?
And the Mishnah is
That tells us to add on.
Lahosif,
A Sufi in the Mishnah means someone who's, who is
lost.
his father, I think he knew his mother was either, actually. Mishnah.
Avi v'nimi zveni v'Hashem ya'asfeni.
Never, not second in Shuk.
Pashat of Shad is Pashat of Shad is Asaf Suf Asher B'Kirbo is the people that made gatherings. Asaf Asifos, the rabble-rousers. The guys that made the Hafganas. Asaf Suf Asher B'Kirbo. The people for tumult, that's what the word means. Rashi says, this is probably the Makar of the Targum says, which is probably the Makar of Rashi, Va'aravravim dibneim. So he learns Asaf Suf, the Targum teaches as Aravravim. So probably that's where Rashi gets erev rav. But Asaf Suf, the word means, the Asaf, they were making Asifot. Let's have a meeting, town hall meetings, this meeting, so here's what happens. Let's get the story clear. The story is that they leave Har Sinai. People are in a bad mood. Who? Everybody. Here Rashi doesn't say that it was the erev, the Rishonim. So it's a strong blushing. The Rishonim started complaining, woe is me, mislainanim. That doesn't say mislainanim. Salalim, alila. Kadosh Baruch Hu brings fire down. Moshe Rabbeinu davens, okay, no more fire. Fatishka haish, and the fire goes down. And the asaf suf, which Rashi tells us was the erev rav, but it means those that the tumulers, the people, the machers, the tumulers, they came and they decided like this is not, this is not, we're not going to be able to live like this. Asaf suf, every time we do something wrong, the question is going to be fire is coming down. It doesn't. Not geschmack. There's a famous Shlit'a story. Shlit'a Maisa that in Koznitz, so a fire broke out in the town. So fire broke out in the town in the old days, so it meant the whole town was gone. The way the houses were built, and there was wasn't a lot of running water, and there wasn't any, there goes the city, there goes our possessions, there goes our money, there goes everything, and they just run out of the houses and watch the town burn down. So it was a big tragedy when there was a fire. Still a big tragedy, but not like you don't lose New York from a fire. You lose the whole city of Koznitz. So apparently the fire broke out, and at that time Napoleon was and his men were in the city when the fire broke out. So he's watching. Napoleon is watching. As the general is watching as Koznitz is burning down, and they said, we have an yetzer, so they pull in the Koznitzer Maggid. It was the Rebbe of Koznitz, Siddish Rebbe, Koznitzer Maggid it was called. They bring him in to look at the fire, and they bring him right up to the front. Everybody's looking at the fire, and he puts his glasses down like this, and he stares at the fire, and the fire goes out. It was a miracle happened. And Napoleon said, what just happened? He said, this is our Rebbe. Our Rebbe has this kind of a koach that he can look at the fire and the fire goes out. So they tell the story that, it's a famous Hasidic story, but it's in our tradition, that Napoleon was traveling to the south of Germany, I think. He was in South Germany, and he was in a place, and also in a Jewish community, and a fire broke out. A couple of years later, a fire broke out. So everybody was panicking, fire, we're going to lose everything. So he said, Napoleon said, I know what to do, bring the rabbi. Just bring the rabbi. So they bring out this little yekzer with the glass in his eye. and Napoleon says, so he said, what are you bringing me out? He said, there are these pajamas, what are you to bring me? So he says, no, look at the fire. He says, I know that if you look at the fire, I've seen this happen, you can put the fire out. So he's looking at the fire, and nothing happens. So Napoleon said, he's not a real rabbi. Not a real rabbi.
I hope you practiced your fire putting out in good space.
That's what happens with little fire.
Okay, so Moshe Rabbeinu put out the fire. So Asaf Savasher B'Kirboy Hisavu Tava V'Yashuvu V'Yivku. So now we had V'Yashuvu V'Yivku. Chazal learned, I believe, V'Yashuvu V'Yivku. They went back to their crying state. Meaning, after the fire, they calmed down. Moshe Rabbeinu put out the fire. But V'Yashuvu, what is this V'Yashuvu? When V'Yashuvu, they went back to their state of depression, because the Asaf Suf got them all, the rabble-rousers got them all excited. V'Yashuvu V'Yivku Gam B'nei Yisrael. So now the whole Klal Yisrael was infected by this complaining. V'Yomru, and they said, Mi Achilenu Basar. And what did they say? Who's going to give us food? Okay, so I just again, I want to learn the mood of this parsha. I think it's a very important parsha. They started off with a sort of a ambiguous, almost an amorphous type of depression. The Messiah, they didn't even know. They weren't complaining about anything in particular. Am I right? It doesn't say that they were complaining about food. They left Har Sinai, and Here we are in the midbar. Rashi tells us that we traveled 3 days. Our feet hurt, but it was amorphous. It was just not a good mood. That's what bothered HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Like, why? Like, this is life. This is, we're going with the Ur. So he made a fire. The fire went out. The Asafsuf came and said, let's give some focus. Let's give some definition to what we're upset about. Like, this is not just we're a bunch of crybabies. Let's put some definition into this. So Klal Yisrael, this already caught on. The public meetings, the Asafsuf means the public meetings. I'm stressing the Asafsuf because you see this happens a lot today also. The Asafsuf, Asher B'tir, but people make a tumult. Let's make a tumult. Let's make a rebellion. Let's make over and over again. Where were they? Maybe they were the erev, but it was an Asafsuf. Was a mentality of town hall meetings, and they brought out a very, very defined taina from Klal Yisrael, and it was, and listen to their taina, it's a whole speech. Mi yachilenu basar. Klal Yisrael, the whole Klal Yisrael said this. Zacharnu es hadoga asher noichel b'mitzrayim chinam. First of all, where are we going to get meat from? Second of all, we're remembering the herring that we used to eat in Mitzrayim for free. Es hakishuyim v'es havatichim. We remember the gourds and remember the watermelons. V'es hachotzir, v'es habetzolin, v'es hashumin. What about the onions? What about the garlic? The spice of life. What do we have here in the midbar? It's understandable. This is not a makom here where we're going to have any kind of gourmet geschmack in the desert. Ata. Now, nafshenu yevesha ein kol bilti el hamon einenu. What are we eating now? Our whole diet is a diet of man. V'amon kizra gadhu ve'enoi kein habedoylach. It looks like a piece of stone, Rashi says. Shatu am v'loktu v'tachanu b'rechaim v'adachal b'medoichel b'shlu b'parur v'asu esayu guys. Now we have the Chumash goes on this sort of tangent to explain. And what was this man that they were eating? They weren't eating snow. What they were eating, they chatu ha'am, they were collective, l'aktu v'tachanu b'rechaim v'adachal b'medocha. They would put it in the rechaim, they would put it in the medocha, put it b'shlu b'parur, they would bake it. V'asu esayu guys, they make cake out of it. V'hayat katam l'shad hashamen. U'beredas hatal al amachna laila yered haman olav. Tal would first come down. So there was some moisture here, it wasn't dry. Tal would first come down the machna, on it would come the man. So this is a parenthesis about the man that they were, which is the most information we have in the whole Chumash about what the man was. By Yishma Moshe Sa'am, now Moshe hears the people, so this is Moshe's second involvement. The first involvement that Moshe Rabbeinu had was to put out the fire. Now something else happens. He hears the people, bochel mishpachosav ish lepesach olay. He hears everybody crying in, that's like a simple shot without chazal. Bochel mishpachosav ish lepesach olay. Shutesh Mikra is, he hears people crying from inside their houses or from their doorways. He's not listening to the Asaf Suf Asher Bakirba. He's not listening to the big meetings. That's not what's impressing him or hurting him. What's making a roshim on Moshe Rabbeinu is bochel mishpachosav, ish lepesach olay. So let's stick with the Pshutei Shel Mikra before we get to the Chazal of the Rebbeichan, the union of Arayos. Pajit Pshat. Asaf Suf was one group of people, and then there was Bnei Yisrael, which were bochel mishpachosav. They were crying inside their houses. What kind of life is this? What are we doing? Vayichar af Hashem ma'od. And Hashem became very angry at this. Ube'enei Moshe ra, Moshe didn't like it either. Vayomer Moshe el Hashem, and here we have this unbelievable reaction of Moshe Rabbeinu. Unbelievable reaction. Vayomer Moshe el Hashem, lama ha're'ois lavdecha. Moshe was a selfless person. What are you doing to me? This is the people you give me to lead? What kind of kehillah is this? What am I, their mother? I'm supposed to nurse them? Carry me, like a nurse carries a baby. I'm supposed to carry them into Eretz Yisrael. You hear what he's saying? What is talking about the Adama? We're in the midbar now. We're not in the dome. Is this what kind of a people is it going to be that are going to go into Eretz Yisrael, which was the plan right now, a few days? They're going to go into Eretz Yisrael at this moment. There was no Meraglim yet. In a few days, they're going to go into Eretz Yisrael. This is what you're giving me, a bunch of crybabies going into Eretz Yisrael that are looking for somebody to mother them? What? And where am I supposed to get? The and is my addition. Where should I get meat for them? Yomar? I mean, what am I supposed to do here? I can't do this myself. And if this is what you mean for me, hargeni no harai, kill me now. If you like me, kill me. Val erev, don't make me suffer like this. Okay, this is a pella that every time you come to this, it has for every. He was able to deal with the whole Yitzis Mitzrayim. He was able to deal with the ego. He went and he wouldn't let HaKadosh Baruch Hu say one bad word. He convinced HaKadosh Baruch Hu that the Klal Yisrael is okay. Vayinochim Hashem al kol hara asher ratzah la'aseh slava. HaKadosh Baruch Hu had charata because of Moshe Rabbeinu's advocacy on anything that he thought bad about the Jewish people. Moshe Rabbeinu was an ultimate patience and humbleness and selflessness, and he was if not for Moshe Rabbeinu, we have to have a course of time. People think not for Moshe Rabbeinu we wouldn't have a Torah. If not for Moshe Rabbeinu, we wouldn't exist. If not for Moshe Rabbeinu, Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted to destroy us completely. Achala oisam karega. I would just destroy it. Moshe Rabbeinu said, how could you destroy them? Came out of Mitzrayim, Lava Yoimru, and all kinds of tightness. Why you can't destroy them? So Moshe Rabbeinu saved us. He pleaded for us. He was our advocate in Shemayim for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But when they're crying that they want basar and onions and garlic, he couldn't handle it anymore. I mean, it's just one thing that needs to be explained. Second thing is, what's his response? I can't do this myself. That's not the point. That's not the point. It's not that he needs an assistant here or a helper. I can't do it myself. His taina is on what kind of people are these? Kill me because this is not a people for me. And then he says, I can't do this myself. So kill me. There seems to be two stories going on in this parsha here. One story is Me'ayin li basar, where am I supposed to get meat from? And the other story is what kind of people are these? So there's like two things. Like, practical question is, how am I supposed to get the basar? Now, what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu answer? Vayomer Hashem Moshe, okay. This is what you do. Gather together 70 people. This is not the 70 of Yisro where he needs help adjudicating the people, where he can't handle the long lines any longer. This is not what we're talking about over here. He's saying, I can't do it myself. Okay, pick 70 people. What are the 70 people going to do? It doesn't answer the problem of Me'ayin li basar. What are they going to do? Go hunting? In the midbar? What do they do? I will take what you have and I'll spread it out to them. You won't be alone any longer. You have charusa. You have 70 people. On Tomar, part 2 of the story, part B, I should say. What about the people? They should get themselves ready. They'll get meat. They were crying that they want meat because it was better in Mitzrayim. I will give them meat. This never happened, by the way, I don't think. But I'll show you why. He said they're going to have not a day, not a week, not 10 days, 30 days they're going to eat meat and it's going to come out of their noses. Chodesh Yamim ad asher yetzer mi'avchem v'ahayu lachem l'zara yan ki ma'astem es Hashem asher b'kir b'chem v'ativku l'fanav lemor, because they were crying and they said lama zeyitzanu mitzrayim, they're going to have meat coming out of the nose and ears. So Moshe Rabbeinu, here's another pellet. Somebody, this is such a pellet to give parsha. What's Moshe Rabbeinu's response? God, do you know what you're getting yourself into here? You're talking about hundreds of thousands of people. Where in the world are you going to get meat for hundreds of thousands of people? You're feeding an army here. I mean, Man wasn't a kasha. Torah wasn't a kasha. Like all of a sudden he has a kasha. Marta, and you're saying, Basar etay lahem. I will give them meat, Hashem says. I will give them meat. Atzon bakar yishachid lahem. They're not going to have meat because they're going to shecht all the mikneh rav that came out with them. Matzah lahem is called dmei agam yasef lahem. No matter what you bring them, it's not going to be enough. So Hashem gets now angry at Moshe. Vayomer Hashem Moshe, hayad Hashem tikstar. But I can't bring meat. You'll see whether I can do it or not. So just the arichas of the parsha here, but it's very important. So what happens? Moshe Rabbeinu does now, after this nevuah, he goes out and gathers the 70 people. First thing, which we don't know what they're for. We don't know what they're for. Not kasher. 70 people. This is a story about meat. But he does it. He gets to 70 people. They all get Ruach HaKodesh. And they started to Nevuah. Now then we have the story of Eldad Umeidan, which didn't come to the oil moaned. They had Nevuah, side story. And there, as we went a couple of weeks ago, they're already saying Nevuahs about Gog and Mashiach. Like, what's going on? What's flying around in the air over here? Vayesav Moshe Lamachana, who was Ignei Yisrael. And then Moshe Rabbeinu takes his 70 men and he brings them into the center. V'ruach nosem eis Hashem, vayagaz salvim min hayam vayitosh, and all of a sudden there was a swarm of birds that came from the Yam. Which Yam? Yes, Yam HaTichon, the only one, but they were vayitosh, or the Red Sea. And your the pasuk says in Lamed Beis, that's why it didn't happen. And what happened is they collected all day, all night. So the Kashis, the Chazal will explain. What do you? I said I'm going to bring this to you for not 1 day, not 10 days, not 20 days, a month. You're going to get stuff. So they're running around like Meshuggahs gathering the meat. What's this insecurity here? So even still, they didn't trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They think this was a 1 day, a miracle that happened. You can't push your luck. Ain't somchad al hanes. And so HaKadosh Baruch Hu, apparently they didn't last the 30 days. Ba'af Hashem chara ba'am, the anger of Hashem inflamed on the people. Vayach Hashem ba'am maka rabba ma'od, and they lost a lot of people on that day. This must have been the first day of the Sov. Vayikra Hashem hamakom hahu, and there was mass tombs, a mass cemetery there in the desert, and the name of the cemetery is Kivros HaTaiva, the tomb of lust. I don't know if that says in English, but it sounds nice now. The tomb of lust. Hisham kavru es ha'am ha'misavim. All the Baalei Taiva got buried here. My story, Mikivros HaTaiva Nasavam b'Chatzeros. Then they went weiter to Chatzeros, v'yu b'Chatzeros. Story of Miriam. So there's so many different kashas. I mean, I asked a couple, but there's so many different kashas on this story. We still don't know what these 70 people were for. Not kasher. This is a story about birds. We don't know. It's a story about birds. It's a story about Taiva. It's not a story about a Sanhedrin. The 70 people stuck with Moshe Rabbeinu. So Reb Tzadok in a different place explains, which is extremely important, that there's different types of tzaddikim that are able to do different things for the world. And there are some tzaddikim which can bring let's look at the tzaddikim, tzaddik yesod olam. Let's look at the tzaddikim as tzinorot, that they're opening the shemayim to this world. And some tzaddikim can bring a tremendous amount of Ruach HaKodesh into the world. And some tzaddikim can bring chicken and meat and fish. And some tzaddikim can bring simcha. And some tzaddikim can bring good weather. Different tzaddikim that are able to bring different things into this world. You see that we talked about on Shabbos, Chani HaMagel. There's a tzaddik that can bring rain. Came to winning wars. This is not my area. There were so many Chazal in time of Chani HaMagel, Shimon Machetach, Antignos Yisaychai. There was tzaddikim around, Yosef ben Yoezer. But Chani HaMagel was the rain man. He was able to bring rain. The pshat is that there's different types of tzinoros. Moshe Rabbeinu had one expertise, one area, at least he felt, and that is that I can bring Torah to Klal Yisrael. Through me, I am that great sinar of Torah. I can bring something from a place where it's totally inaccessible into this world. I can make it accessible to people. I'm involved in this, the Tzimtzum itself. Okay, you haven't seen Moshe Rabbeinu. So can you get some chicken into the tzinar? You're getting us 10 Commandments, you're getting us Torah mitzvahs, you're getting us Torah Shabbat Balpeh, you're bringing us luchos. I'll call you a fat. About onions, garlic, leeks, squash, sweet potatoes. That's what we want to come through this pipe. So what's Moshe Rabbeinu's answer? I'm not a meat guy, I'm not a butcher. But I'm not somebody who can bring down meat. I'm a stumble. I never saw this in a sefer, but Libi Amarli, that everything that comes into this world is yesh me'ayin. He said me'ayin li basar. It's me'ayin li basar from nowhere. I'm supposed to bring in basar. Like, where am I supposed to get basar from? Let's say Salam Hazeh. He doesn't even understand Moshe Rabbeinu, if I'm allowed to say. He doesn't even understand HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Do you realize what you're committing yourself to? Basar for 600,000 men, carnivores that lived in Mitzrayim. Do you understand even like what you're getting? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to him, "Hayad Hashem tiksar." But I can't do this. Moshe Rabbeinu, this was not Moshe Rabbeinu's experience with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Moshe Rabbeinu's experience with HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Ruchnius, Torah, Nevuah, a whole different idea. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to him, "Asful yishivim ish." If you'll take the 70 people, Asher Yadatem, which have a koach from Mitzrayim already, Russia, Avashoitrov, people that have this type of chesed, what we'll have now, we'll move from a one-pipe system into a 71-pipe system. And all of a sudden, you'll see that there can be all kinds of hashbahs which are tov. So when Moshe Rabbeinu said, I said it seems like there's two parallel stories. There's the story of the Ma'ayin Li Basar, the story of the people fetching. So the Rebbe Shalom marries them into one story. It's really all one story. The story is that you are a supplier, a purveyor of Ruchnius. The people are complaining that they need a purveyor of Gashmius, and they enumerated the whole recipe book here. We need basar, we need chicken, we need fish, we need onions, we need leeks, we need garlic. Kohanana. Moshe Rabbeinu was even able to bring man. Because the man,
Spiritual.
it was spiritual.
So what's Eldad and Medad? You fit that in.
Eldad and Medad were other pipes, but they didn't show up. So they were pipes of, as the Targum Yonis and Benazil says, they were the pipes of Mashiach, of Gula. Their nevuah was Gula. They didn't show up because it wasn't the right time. Unfortunately, the Targum Yonis and Benazil. They learned it together. So Eldad and Medad wasn't part of what Klal Yisrael was holding by right now. We'll tell you about Mashiach, we'll tell you about the Eretz Yisrael, we'll tell you about Tchias HaMesim, we'll tell you about the wars that are going to happen. But this is not the pipelines that we're talking about. Like we need to Eftecha Picha V'Abalei. Now, okay, so we have Shivim Zakedim. Now, I just want to point out, like, is Kol Zman they were at Kol Zman they were at Har Sinai. Ain't Bayah. We don't know why exactly. They had Basar. So some say yes, they had still the Mikveh from Mitzrayim.
The Slav came down, so...
A short Slav, but it wasn't as dramatic, right? Yeah. Before Har Sinai.
With the monk.
Yeah.
But also, they didn't need him. They didn't need him. They were thinking about that in the Har Sinai.
So when they were at Har Sinai, so Reb Tzadok here says a lashon when they were at Har Sinai. I believe this is a big chiddush. When they came to Har Sinai, it was Paska Zuamasa. What's the Zuama? Zuma is from Zumas Hanochash. Look at the Eitzadas. So when they came to Har Sinai, it was a matzav of Geula. Matzav of Geula. Asad ha'ilana islo hitzi gluskais, where bread grows on trees. There was grass in the desert. It was a physical and spiritual oasis, but it was a miraculous one. Because if you go to Har Sinai today, there's no oasis. Maybe that's not Har Sinai. There's no oasis anywhere. It doesn't. There's no oasis anywhere in the vicinity. So it wasn't a natural oasis. So there was a they were living off this lechem min hashamayim, and they were okay with it. Why? Why were they okay with it? Because Paska zu Amasa. And even though, the preview to Reb Tzadok here is, even though the erev Rav, they never were Paska zu Amasa at Har Sinai. But they didn't have an effect on Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael was holy at Har Sinai from the time of the Egel, from the time of the Shviras Haluchos, all the way until Yom Kippur, until the Mishkan. It was the B'niyas HaMishkan. Everybody was holy. There was no such havamina of me'ayin libasa. They were living through the pipeline of Ruchnius Lagamri. That's how they were living. It was a bechina of Moshe Rabbeinu, who was on Har Sinai. The lechem lo yachalti, mayim lo shasisi. It was a bechina of living in Ruchnius. Now, and he didn't need the Shiva Mish. He didn't need the Shiva Mish. Now we need Shiva Mish because now we need multiple pipelines and multiple circuits to bring in all of the needs of Klal Yisrael. And Moshe Rabbeinu can't do this. See what did Reb Chanina ben Doisa say? Kol oilam kulai misparnes b'shvil Chanina b'ni. The whole world is misparnes b'shvil Chanina b'ni. So Chaim Volozhin and the Nefesh HaChaim says, and the Reb Tzadok says, b'shvil Chanina b'ni hainu shnei shvilim. Gemara Ksuvas. Shnei shvilim. What's a shvil? Path. Like a pipe. So, Chanina ben Doisa said, I'm a tzaddik. I'm the type of a tzaddik. Shekol olam kulay misparnes b'shvil Chanina b'ni. You want to know where your parnas is coming from? It's coming through my pipe. It's the pipeline. It was talking about the shvil of Chanina b'ni. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't have that pipe. My ayin li basar.
Maybe he would have had it if he thought he had it.
Or he wanted it. Maybe he didn't want it.
He didn't want it.
What about it? That's what he says. I'm supposed to be nursing the people. Think of the words. What is a mother? She's the pipeline of nourishment to the child.
But if he wanted it, he could have had it.
Could have had probably whatever. Probably could have been a great lawyer too. That's not what he wanted. I'm an ish ruchani. So listen to his mashal. His mashal is so meduyek. His mashal is, I'm a nurse that's supposed to carry a kid, and every time they come crying, I'm supposed to give them food. What's he saying? What am I? I'm a pipeline of gashmias, of nourishment. That's not my job. So the Rebbe Shalom, you didn't think of this. And how are you going to feed them? What pipe are you going to use? And the answer is as felishi v'bish. We have Chanina ben Doisa. We have all kinds of people, and even Eldad who made that, but their pipeline is not important right now. Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Look, I'm a kadatoli." So he says, "Don't worry about my covenant. I don't want to get involved with anything but the ruchnius of the Torah that I'm bringing into Klal Yisrael. That's my job, and that's what I want to do."
That was also diluted through the Shidduch.
How do you know?
Isn't that that's what Hashem said? We'll take from your ruchnius and give it to them.
No, I don't think that's what it means. It doesn't say you're taking your Torah. That's something ruach, meaning the ultimate pipeline to the ultimate connection. I'm just looking at it in plumbing terms, which is probably the wrong way to do it, but let's do it. The ultimate connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Moshe Rabbeinu. So now the direct line is line of Torah. What HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving through Moshe Rabbeinu's Torah, but we can hook up. But Yotzel min haruach, we can take this and we can create a lot of different tributaries of sustenance. The tzimtzum, in other words, if you understand how Pichasidus, is that the tzimtzum can translate itself into so many different things, so many different levels of turning ruchnius into gashmius. Torah is one of them. The Yotzel min haruach. So just to finish off here, which is really to start, the end of the story is HaKadosh Baruch Hu got upset with Klal Yisrael. Why? What was he upset? Vayikra Hashem ha'makom hahu kivros ha'taiva. So he got upset that what? That they were even. I can supply it, but it's the kivros ha'taiva. What he was upset with was that there was an overcoming. The Zumas Hanachash seems to have gone away. Kolzman, they were at Har Sinai, which was it, and it seems to have reinfected them. Why? Because the erev rav, the asaf sufasher b'kirbai, aroused this in them, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, "Okay, like you want meat, you want chicken, you want avatiach, you want kishuy beseder, but like this, the taiva was the problem." So what happens? Vayakas ha'amaka rabble. HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So this is a smiting, if you will, of the taiva of the zumas hanachash. That's what the law was, right? Eat it. And that's why Chazal darshan, by the way, that ha'am haya boichel l'mishpachosav ala rayas. Kesher arayas here. They were talking about herring, and it was herring and pickles, and we got to arayas. How do you get from it? Taiva is taiva. Meaning that once you're the asafsuf asher b'kir boy brought out this reinfected or reinfected or regenerated or refreshed the zuam mas hanochash yesh lanu bayah. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu killed them and they buried them. So it wasn't just a chronological or a geographical thing that they came. Kivros HaTaiva was a story, it was a concept.
Eradication.
A concept. There was a concept of Taiva, which came about right after Har Sinai. That's what we're learning about now. It's the introduction to the paragraph. There's a reintroduction of Taiva that it didn't exist. Kolzman, they were at Har Sinai, and now it exists again.
Everyone, please put that motion back.